Hi, I'm Jackie from Humans in Geelong. I'm the founder, and 4 years ago, I thought I wanted to make a difference. Uh, I um, I decided I wanted to focus on positive stories and write Humans in Geelong. So I was really lucky that a like-minded team came on board, and since we started, we write 2 or 3 stories a week about people in our community that are making a difference. And the stories are about cultural diversity, sustainability, health and wellness, creativity, equity and opportunities. And since starting, we've held 3 Humans in Geelong expos at Deakin Waterfront, which have been absolutely huge. We've published a book and spoken at the Creative State Summit. And now we're presenting the Humans in Geelong online expo. And I'm so pleased to have you all here this evening to be part of this youth panel discussion about art under COVID skies. Thanks, Kuranda.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Look, guys, I will start the formal program now. And again, welcome to this panel discussion as a part of the Humans in Geelong Expo, and as we have titled it, Art Under COVID Skies. So very pleased to introduce the panel as we go now, starting with Sami Shah. Sami Shah is a talented writer and comedian, performer and broadcaster. He was awarded the Best Local Act at the 2013 Perth International Comedy Festival and Best WA Comedy Act at the 2016 Fringe World. His autobiography, I, Migrant, was nominated for the New South Wales Premier's Literary Award in 2015 and the WA Premier's Literary Award in 2016 and the Russell Prize for Humour Writing in 2015. I mean, that's an amazing list in itself. But he's also co-hosted the ABC Radio Melbourne Breakfast program and has appeared as a panelist on the very famous QI show with Stephen Fry. So welcome, Sami. How are you going?
I'm going the same as everyone's going in stage 4 lockdown, in that I am good and I am terrible.
Yes, exactly. I think that's how all of us are feeling, especially if we're in Melbourne. Now, I would like to introduce Özge Alkan. And she was born in Turkey, grew up in America, and lives in Australia. She holds an honours degree in journalism and a master's degree in information studies, and she's worked as the head librarian at Ilim College and as a community development librarian at Boroondara Library Services. She is the co-author of a children's book called Hijabi Girl, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And there it is. Nice little plug. And Özge is working on the sequels of Hijabi Girl in between running after her 2 young children and volunteering for the community organisation called Big Group Hug. How are you, Özge? And welcome.
Thank you. It's a good day for me today because Kinder has opened back up. So I actually had a day without either one of my kids. So one of them was at daycare, one of them was at Kinder. So today has been like the first good day in a very long stretch of very stressful days. So it's good.
It's good to hear a positive story in all this misery. Now let's go to our third guest, and this is Hesh Habibullah. Hesh is also known as Hesh the Rapper and is an acclaimed hip-hop artist from the Melbourne-based hip-hop group called The Brotherhood, a conscious hip-hop group which promotes positivity and meaningful messages through their music for young people. Hesh is now bringing that vibe and more to a younger group or a younger audience of children through his alter ego Hibble Hop. Hesh is also a qualified teacher, counsellor and personal trainer. Welcome, Hesh. How are you?
Going on, guys? Hope you're all well. Thanks for having me. It's been very surreal experience as well on my part. I wish I was in Geelong at the moment, actually, so I could at least grab a coffee or something. But yeah, no, it's we're here, so we're all surviving. So we're still able to walk around outside, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, we're all jelly of you, Jackie. We want to be in Geelong because you guys are just basically go and have a coffee, get a haircut whenever you want. And let me now introduce Sorry?
The best book, basically Australia's best secondhand bookshop is in Geelong. It's Books
Yes.
Around. I miss it so much. I haven't been there in 6 months. Yeah.
I've heard of it as well. I haven't been there, but I was looking up a book, and that's where I could have got it. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Do they have a cafe in there as well?
Really,
No.
Mr. Coffee?
Do they have a cafe in the bookshop, or is it just a bookshop?
No, just books. It's book heaven.
Good. Anyway, I'd like to introduce now Aseel Tayah. She is a Palestinian artist and activist. Aseel has been instrumental in using her cultural practice to shed light on the experiences of those living in war-torn countries and conditions. Aseel is a talented art maker, drawing diverse participants into her orbit through the courage of her convictions and the power of her stories. She's created numerous new works such as Book Chair and Lullabies Under the Stars, inviting communities into the experience of asylum seekers and refugees through deeply personal and transformational multi-art engagements. Welcome, Aseel. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So happy to be here around artists. I don't know, but it's always great to do something different in this lockdown.
Yes, I'm looking forward to this discussion. It's a really diverse group of people here. All got interesting achievements to their names, but I can only say that there is much, much more to come from these four individuals. I know that they're all busily working on their art, and they've got projects already in store. Looking forward to what Sami's coming up with in the near future. And I'm looking forward to seeing a bit more about Hijabi Girl. And I might get everybody to just tell us a little bit more about what projects you'll be doing just before we end. But the first question we're going to start is, and it's a question that probably everybody wants to know, and it's, how have you adapted your art to fit into the COVID-19 narrative? By that I mean, how has the lockdown and the pandemic in general forced you to do things differently? And let's start with Aseel.
It's so hard because all my work is on like with people and around humans. I am a people person. Like I love being around people and I love connecting people. As you know, Kuranda, like most of my work that you have also experienced, like it brings people together either under a tent or at school or like in a kindergarten. And it's just hard when you have to just do everything online. I miss the hugs and I miss the touches and the kind of hearing people around. Not necessarily children, as you said, but like just people like around, more laughs and interactions. And theaters were the very, very first thing to close, and most probably the last to open as well. So it's struggling kind of to not do anything with people, but it's also kind of, this is where your creativity comes into the surface, and like, okay, well, like we're not only creative when everything is easy and available. We scratch this kind of heads when kind of we have not much options. So yeah, we have been doing things online, like in Refugee Week, for example, when talking about asylum seekers and refugees, we have been doing a lot online that's bringing different communities together, lots of conversations that people are interested in hearing, lots of interesting artists that are amazing also, that could feel that they have a space now that they didn't before, when it was harder for them to go and face people. Now they are behind the screen and they find it as a great opportunity to shine and to show their creativity and talent. So yeah, it hasn't been easy, I have to say, but a dish and a song and a hug can be something that we share with other people, even if it's so far away. And that really encouraged me to do amazing projects as well, like while just sitting in home and telling more stories, singing more with children, girls only kind of nasheed, cooking with my friends. I have cooking classes every Sunday that I do. I share a song and a dish and a story from Palestine, sharing with people our culture that is disappearing because of occupation, but trying to keep that happening and running. And it's like mostly 15 people joining me every week just to have fun and cook a new dish, and I enjoy and love seeing what they do. So yeah, we just should, I believe that I have been saying that to myself since lockdown started, like one day at a time, and let's just kind of keep 1 week at a time and 1 month at a time. And unfortunately, we don't really know when we will have our normal life again. So at least we should make a nice normal one meanwhile. So
yeah, look, it sounds like you've really adapted well, and there's some fun activities that you're doing. I like the idea of cooking. That's something definitely that you can do online onto a camera. So that sounds interesting. Now we'll come back to a little bit more about that in a moment, but I wanted to ask Hesh, you are a performer, Hesh, you sing rap and hip hop songs. How has this COVID lockdown changed for you in terms of the way you deliver your art?
I gotta be honest with you. I kind of am hoping this lockdown stays a bit longer. I know that sounds like real idiotic, but I think the reason why is because I'm starting to find that I'm quite driven in like I've just started I've started doing music production. I've started doing music theory and learning how to do video production. So I bought myself a green screen and I'm starting to record my own stuff and video edit that, and starting to record my own music and producing that. And so it's all good fun. And like Aseel was saying, I've started getting into baking and cooking. I've started to make my own protein cake stuff, and it's fun so I think there's actually a lot of the good stuff that comes from it. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, that kind of ethos. But I'm finding that it's actually a good way of being able to go, okay, well, fine, I may not be able to do certain things, but at least I can apply my trade in other ways by bolstering up my armory and getting this part of my art fixed up or worked around, and I can do this and that. So I guess it's just a matter of trying to adapt and making the best of a not great situation.
Wow, yeah, sounds good. I think does the lockdown affect your emotional state at all, or how's that affect you?
Yeah, it kind of does. It definitely, you think, it'd be nice to walk outside and not cover my face. But then, you can always look at that and go, okay, well, now I know how a girl in a burqa feels, because before that, I never knew what it meant. Or, I can, it's just seeing certain, looking at it in a certain way. But yeah, it's definitely tough. But, I'm quite well traveled, and I've been to, some of the worst places in the world and seen how people live. So in reality, this is honestly like a walk in the park compared to what some people have to face.
I can see you're a glass half full type of person. That's good.
I'm trying to be.
Let's go to Özge. Now, Özge, you're writing books and doing other things, I imagine. How have you adapted in this environment?
Well, what affected us was one of the big things that lockdown did for us was the Lyric and Puppets has actually picked up the rights to Hijabi Girl to turn it into a musical puppet show. And they fundraised $8,000 to get the puppets made and everything. So we had the puppets, we had the script, and then this happened. So this show was supposed to go on in August, and it was supposed to come alive and with the puppets and everything, and it just got put on hold. So that's what really gutted me. But writing itself is quite a solitary activity, so I haven't been too much affected by it. Maybe the killing of the book week affected me, because in the book week you have the schools, the authors get invited, like Aseel said, you go to schools, you see the kids, they're excited about your books, they dressed up as your characters, all that warm fuzzy things. None of those happened. And I had to change the way I write, because normally I'll be writing when my kids are in daycare or kinder. It turned into sort of writing while I'm lying down next to my toddler, trying to type a few sentences on my phone, because if I get up from next to her side, she's going to wake up. So that's what my writing has become. But you just keep going, because the chapters need to be written, the words need to get out somehow. So I changed how I wrote, just adapting
and
to
I guess
having my kids hanging off my legs all the time.
And I guess the lockdown in a way has worked in your favor, in that it's given you time to think and be able to withdraw and just focus on the writing. Yeah.
As much as I can, yes. It did do. Initially, it was more like, oh my God, what do I do? I can't write now because I write when my kids aren't there, but I have discovered another talent of, writing lying down on my phone next to a sleeping child. So it did give me that, yes.
Okay. Now coming to well, I can't imagine a person like Sami being contained by the virus. I reckon you would be out there scheming up heaps of things in the pipeline. So tell us how you've been handling it.
It was interesting. It's been a journey. Definitely been a lot of peaks and troughs, emotionally and intellectually. One of the things that happened was I'm a comedian, and 2020 was going to be my year to refocus on stand-up comedy. For the last 2 years, I'd been working as a radio broadcaster at the ABC, and then that finally wrapped up. And I was like, I missed doing stand-up comedy and being on stage all the time. And I was like, can't wait for 2020. I'm just going to spend all my time on stage, the Sydney Comedy Festival, Melbourne Comedy Festival, Perth Fringe, all of those, and it all disappeared. And not only did that disappear, the opportunity to just perform on stage disappeared. And stand-up comedy it's not just something I love doing. It's a compulsion. If I'm not doing it, I've been doing it for the last 15 years now. If I'm not doing it, I feel strange. So that was hard. I got lucky in that the state government here in Victoria set up a thing called Delivered Live, which was a live performance thing every Saturday or every Friday. And it happened for most of, all of stage 1 lockdown, and for, I think, the first 4 months of stage 2 lockdown, or the second lockdown. I got to do stand-up comedy still every week in that, but I was doing it to a camera on my computer in my kitchen with no live audiences. And if you've ever been to a comedy show, you know how much live audiences are a part of that you feed off of the reaction, and that reaction was gone. So it felt strange, but I was able to kind of adapt to that and do it every week. And I was really grateful for that opportunity to perform. As a writer, it was very different though. As a writer, I didn't realize, as a writer, you always fantasize, if only the world would leave me alone, give me 6 months all by myself in a room, and I can just write and write and write, and I'll publish all the books I've ever wanted to publish. And you don't realize how much you need an interaction with the world to kind of inspire you, and how much writing works as a relief from those interactions. You go to work and you spend time with people, and then you think, when I get home tonight, I will write, and that'll be my reward to myself, those 2 hours. But when you just wake up every day in the same kind of grayness of Melbourne life of, 2 hours in the park is the most you can get, and you go to the grocery store and that's your entire social interaction with the world, you find that it becomes harder to write. It becomes harder to be inspired to write because there's nothing feeding into your brain. So it took me a long time to kind of get back to the productivity which I had pre-COVID. I had a book that I was, powering through. I had 30,000 words done in a few months, and all of a sudden it just stopped, and I couldn't figure out why it had stopped. And I only recently realized it's because the book wasn't a relief from life anymore. It was all I had, and that was too much pressure on the book. So, going for daily runs, going for those kind of things, extracurricular activities, kind of got me back into living a life that I could then feed into the book. But also then those questions come in, now everything you write, everything you create goes, how much do I address COVID? The book I was writing was about media and about Australian life, and COVID's a massive thing that's affected everything, but it doesn't fit the plot at all. But how can you deny this thing that's happened in our lifetime? So now, you work in those elements. It's been an ongoing process, I guess, is the short answer to a very long answer that I already gave you.
But what about some jokes? Have you come up with some good COVID jokes?
There's a lot of COVID-based material. There's definitely, but it's a lot of it, I don't know if it's good. I can't try it out. The process of being a comedian is you go to a mic night and you get up on stage and you do 7 minutes to an audience, and they laugh or they don't laugh, and that's how you know it's funny.
You can test our audience now.
Oh, it would be terrible because it's over Zoom and it's over this thing. For me, the most bizarre element of this is being the fact that Melbourne is 8 million people?
About 5 million.
5 million people, right? Never in the world have 5 million people soul searched simultaneously.
Yes.
We don't know. We don't know what it's going to be like. When this ends, we will all come out of this with this kind of like lost, searching look in our eyes going, what am I doing with my life? 5 million people have never asked, what am I doing with my life at the same time? And who knows, you know, you're going to get a lot of artists and poets out of this, or you might get a lot of people who say, you know what, I never want to see 70% of the people I've incorporated into my life because they're all trash and I just want the best of the best from now on. Who knows?
We're all going to become like Forrest Gump and just run.
Yeah.
Just run.
I used to. I never ran before. I do 8 kilometers a day now because it just fills the time, you know. and I have savings for the first time in ages because I've got no money, nothing to spend money on. I'm not going anywhere. But what happens when things go back to normal and we become this bacchanalian, just Dionysian freaks who are just out there, you know, just celebrating life in every moment? Who knows?
It is going to be very interesting 1 year or 2 years down the track, looking back at this time. I'm not sure if people will just forget about it or whether it's going to impact forever and ever and ever and change them forever. But I want to ask you something about your art in terms of social justice and human rights. All of you touch upon social justice in some way or another through your art. I know Özge is talking about her unique character, Hijabi Girl. It's about being an individual, being recognized, being a part of society. Hesh, many of his songs have talked about social justice. Sami, I know your wide array of writing and your comedy does this. And Aseel, strongly through her dramatic pieces, particularly around refugees and asylum seekers. So I'd like to, in the context of COVID-19, ask you, what role does your particular art play in shaping public discourse around social justice and human rights? And are these more important than ever before, considering a lot of the discussion in the media has been drowned out by the pandemic news and human rights has become an afterthought? And let's start off with Aseel. You do a lot of work around asylum seekers, and do you feel that your art can be a voice for them? Do you feel your art can be a way to stimulate public discourse and discussion?
That's very interesting because one of the things one of the kind of campaigns we did once COVID started is actually, like, we always ask the question, what does it mean that you know have to stay at home, but what if you have to leave it? So that's kind of what we started kind of trying to talk to people about, and kind of trying to reverse the question about, you know, staying at home that people complaining about. And I totally agree with you, Hesh, about what you said before. I actually, part of me, as much as I miss my friends, actually thinking more about how privileged we are and how lucky we are to be living in this place, to even have the choice of this kind of space. I know we are forced to stay at home, but many people actually don't have the choice to leave their homes, and they are millions around the world, even while COVID is going on. So that's kind of where my focus was in the first half, you know, of the first lockdown, and still now, is kind of trying to kind of focus on like those issues that people normally, you know, make last to talk about. And the second thing is how mostly people are separating, you know, the asylum seekers and the refugees from the conversations. They are like having their own title, but actually they forget that they had their own homes, they had their own spaces, their own villages, they have their own life that they have lost. They don't really talk about that more than talking about the crisis, the current crisis. So when we are all together, I found it so beautiful to be able to bring everybody in the same space. Like, normally people work around children or adults or youth, but once we are all under the same, you know, space or same circumstances. I know it might be harder for women that is facing domestic violence, or for people that actually have no money, but we are like kind of facing something that is similar. Now, what I mean by similar is that we are all disconnected, but it's harder when you are away from home and away from your family and away from everybody you care about. And also you have nothing in here. So like for me, I'm not, you know, an asylum seeker or a refugee, but I live with a person who he's Syrian, and his family is so displaced around the world, and he cannot really give something to them while he cannot talk to them, or like hardly talk to them because of COVID and the hardship in that. So same for me, I am trying to kind of do something with my family that I normally visit every time around August, September. I cannot go, but I think about everybody here that I spoke to, and like I might disagree a little bit with like the time with you, Sami, because I go to the shops and I try to make this time talking to people. I go, and I love when I go to this Afghan shop and the woman say, you know what, we wait for the moment you enter here, because I know you ask us all about how are you and what do you feel. I always have if I am a writer, I will have a story every day to add, because of these amazing little moments that we appreciate once we don't have many of them. So like it's kind of like a different way to look at my art, different way to look about my activism. When I couldn't do anything like for anyone, I had to, and the hard lockdown was on the States. I said, you know what, forget about art. I'm not gonna write anything. I'm creating 1,500 gifts for the children in the flats. That was all I did in that kind of time, because I could. So it's kind of the priorities that change. Nothing is more important than other, but it's kind of the things that are more urgent that I found I am, even if I was before 1%, responding to, now, because I have more time, I can respond to more urgent things as they come than before.
That's amazing how you have focused your energy towards helping others. Really, really fantastic that you're doing that. I know there's, well, maybe if we have time, you can mention a few of the other projects that you're working on in Palestine, but we should go to Hesh. Hesh, how are you drawing the message of social justice, human rights? Does that underpin any of the work that any of the songs that you write?
Yeah, look, I mean, truth be told, the first little while I was sooking it up pretty well. I can't deny I was having a bit of a cry, but I mean, when you actually start thinking about it, you're like, hang on a second, wait, maybe you know what, I'll take a step back and actually start thinking about what the reality is, and that like music is all about what you feel and writing about what you feel like, and that's what I pretty much have been doing. So a lot of it, I released a song that talks about toilet paper, and then I released a song about how bored I am. But then I've also released stuff that just talks about in general how you feel, and just the anguish that you go through and stuff in isolation. So I find that it's actually a really good motivator to be able to talk about what you feel as a musician. And then also because, I mean, like I started a kids hip hop show where I use puppets and stuff, and I'm doing like little videos like, hip hop meets the Wiggles kind of thing. And I think that's really helped because, starting to see how children are starting to get a lot of mental health issues as well. So trying to apply that kind of art within children as well to try and help them out. And I'm a teacher and stuff like that as well. So, trying to get into my own teaching practice where I'm able to actually start bringing up stuff about Black Lives Matter and Aboriginal people that are detained and how they're treated as well. And I mean, being in a country like Australia, we've really got to open our eyes to how the Aboriginal treatment's going, because it's totally just being left behind. And this is where we've got to start talking about it and bringing it out there for people to learn about. And I mean, I think to a large extent, isolation's a good kind of platform, because everyone's kind of like, there's not much to do, so you're kind of at a point where you feel like, oh, you know what, I've got to start actually thinking about certain things and realizing that the world is much broader than what we got. Like I had a because I still do a bit of counseling as well, and you hear about clients who are asylum seekers, and they've been in hotels, like confined one-room hotels since March, and they're suffering. You can imagine the amount of mental health issues they've got. Like, and we're complaining about Danny Minogue can quarantine at home. That's perfectly fine, but like people like these asylum seekers are stuck in places like that, and it needs to be called out. Billionaires can go to Queensland, and I mean, there's so much discrepancies with what's going on and what's allowed, what's not allowed, and then the people who are really being affected, they're copping it. So,
well, I want to talk about mental health in a moment. That's actually my next question, but I'll just go to Sami for a moment. Sami, are you looking at that issue, or do you feel that it has sort of been left behind, the community, as we've mentioned, asylum seekers, but other aspects of society, have they been sort of overlooked because of the COVID virus?
I think, yes, it has. And that's been one of the fascinating things. It's one of the things that I'm working on a lot. And I'm consulting with a few organizations right now and helping them, how to handle and communicate racism and racist issues in the public sphere. And the thing I find fascinating is COVID kind of became, it's almost like the punishment fits the crime in some ways, because, as a country, Australia, not just Australia, Europe, the world had been for the last few years talking about borders, people coming across borders, and all of a sudden, everyone who comes across borders is seen as a threat. And then it was seen about, the inequality in terms of income and how people who are rich are treated different from people who are poor, and refugees and asylum seekers, the way they're put in detention centers, and that experience of being solitary and isolated like that, and all of these issues that have been dominating our news cycle for so long now have become personally affecting people on one level. You've got people in Australia who are in 14 days in a hotel because they came back from foreign countries and they're Australian citizens and they're white, and that affects, and they've never been confronted with these kind of things. And you've got, the unequal treatment of a rich person versus a non-rich person, or we've seen the way policing has been done and the way fines have been handed out to marginalized communities in a much higher level than to white communities. And all of the problems that we have had, not just in Australia, but also globally, are being magnified and amplified and shown to be as hypocritical and as farcical as they are because of COVID, but no one's drawing those connections. And that's been the frustration. No one's seeing, hey, if you can't handle 6 months in your own apartment, in your own home, during a stage 4 lockdown, where you can still go out to the shops and everything, imagine what it must be like for people who've lived in a detention center for 7 years.
Yeah.
Imagine what it must be like for the Biluwila family who've been in that detention center for 3 years now, or 2 years now, and girls who've grown up in that, and no one's drawing those connections. So part of my work has been trying to kind of make those connections in the public sphere. It's been hard because no one wants to hear it. No one wanted to hear it anyway. People didn't like hearing the uncomfortable truths of reality. But these days, everyone goes, if it's not related to COVID, we definitely don't want to hear it. Yeah. And we don't want to hear about the plight of others because our own plight is so terrible. And there's been a kind of narrowing of empathy. So I'm trying with a lot of my work these days to kind of expand that empathy outwards and show people, hey, this is what others have been suffering for a long time. And you can learn from that suffering, but also, maybe empathize with their suffering and thus alleviate it. It's been hard. It'll always be hard, I think, but it's been an interesting thing watching how COVID has just really magnified so much of the prejudices we had, so much of the inequality we've all experienced.
Yeah, I think at this juncture, it would be good just to talk a little bit about the mental health aspect of the lockdown, particularly about other young artists who are in a similar situation. And Özge, what are some of the issues around mental health, the way the lockdown has affected us, and can art be a remedy for the people suffering? And as young, resilient people yourselves, what advice do you have for people who are struggling artists and going through mental health issues? Özge.
I've been thinking about that question actually, because what happened to me was, I think especially at very early on of the lockdown, and this is my little daughter who was just screaming blue murder, and she would not leave anything alone. So
hello,
she's just gonna have to join. This is Mina. This is my
the Zoom bomber. How are you?
She's saying she's sleepy. Don't believe her. What I was gonna say is, I actually found myself heading straight towards depression, and it was one of the things that I spoke to my psychologist about, and she asked me what I do all day, and I ran through it. I'm with the kids, I cook, I clean, I do this, I do that, I put them to bed, and I just crash. And she just asked me that question. She's like, where's the joy in your life? And I thought, I don't have any. that's what I realized this lockdown has done to me. That's why I was heading towards depression, because there was no joy left in my life. My life has just become this wake up, get the kids, put the kids, just became revolving around that. And she actually gave me an assignment, which I find incredibly helpful. She actually got me to write down the things that give me joy. And she actually said, schedule them into your life. Just like, you'll schedule, oh, my kids are going to eat at lunch. Just schedule that activity for yourself. And what I found was writing for the fun of it, because I'm trying to get the Hijabi Girl 2 and 3 out. So writing has become this thing that's I just have to do. And it actually hasn't been giving me joy. So what I found was doing that little bits of free writing where I just write, I just go, I remember, my grandma's fig trees, and I just go from there. Just that 5-10 minutes of free writing, that just freed up my mind. And it actually brought the joy back into my life. And the other thing that I found is, like, Sami was saying, you just wait for this time where you'll have nothing to do and you'll just become this amazing writer and that kind of thing. That never happened to me, but I always thought, I'll just pick up all these wonderful hobbies once my kids go to uni and, I'll have all this time, but none of that was happening. So what I did was, again, finding those small moments where, I lowered my standards. My kids did not watch TV. And now we have Netflix subscription and a Disney Plus subscription, and I have ABC Kids app, because it's what I need to do. But I'll put something on for them in 20 minutes. And at that 20 minutes, I'll sit there, with my yarn and my crochet hook, which has been my sanity. And I'll just be sitting there, just be crocheting. That 20 minutes, that just gave me that sanity. Or just that, that in between, while this one is napping, I'll have like 5-10 minutes. So just finding those small moments of joy in this bleak thing, that has actually what saved my sanity. And I try to keep at it.
I think it'd be good to make a documentary about your life and just follow you around like a fly on the wall camera in your house. It'd be interesting.
No, it's about to be bedtime soon. Nobody wants to see me when I'm getting 2 kids ready for bed. I read this meme somewhere saying that, I yell so loud at bedtime, even the neighbors' kids put on their pajamas and they brush their teeth. That's what.
Okay, well, Aseel.
It'll be embarrassing.
Thank you for that advice. Now, that's very good advice. Aseel, do you have anything to add to that? How can young people get through this and look after their well-being?
Well, I have a lot to say. I too, again, because I had, like you, Sami, I was supposed to speak at Women of the Word. I had 7 different places to be and speak around the world, not only in Australia. That didn't happen. It was supposed to also be my year, but I normally visit my family all the time this time of the year when the figs and the mangoes are ready to eat. That's kind of my 2 favorite things. I cannot wait. But it's hard, and I'm the oldest, and I'm always like responsible for my family's love and joy. But I learned a lot in this time. I learned a lot more than I wrote my very first poem. I didn't write before kind of poetry in English. That was the very first time I do that. I have done a lot of things I wouldn't do if I wasn't in lockdown. I'm so glad that my partner and my daughter are having lots of time together at the moment that we didn't really have because he had to travel 2 hours during the day. I really learned to enjoy the small things. And I've sent so many small gifts to people while I can. It can be a 1 word of I love you, or a painting that I do with Rima, or like a song I dedicate for lots of friends that are now kind of going through hard times. Some of them are facing some cancer and others like having their own problems. And we just sat and sang, like sent some messages of love that we normally are so busy to actually put that time and do it. So like, I know it's so hard. I'm struggling. I miss home so much as a so deeply Palestinian, but I also know that, we can, like, I met new neighbors. I know 15 of my neighbors. Do you? That's a way to kind of really go. You can walk for 5Ks and know new people. I've made at least 15 different dishes in the last few weeks, and I gave them to people I have never, like, I just knock on their doors. I gave them falafel and hummus. Like, it's maybe something that is small, but I think that's the best investment when you are busy, to kind of make amazing things, small things that will really help you once this lockdown is over. I don't think I will be as hard to go and adapt with the word, because I just made my word continue to be, you know, giving and the way I would love it to be in Australia. That is my home, actually is, but it's so lacking this kind of generosity in this space, and we'll just create it. So I would just love to ask people to just be generous with their time, with their love, with their feelings. And yes, we are all tired. Of course I'm tired, and of course I was depressed for a long time, but every time this kind of smell of depression come close to me, I was like, no, not my door. And because I'm really trying to keep this kind of you know, life going as much as possible.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well done, Aseel. I mean, keep working at it. I wanted to ask Hesh, you've already touched upon this topic. Hesh, is there anything you wanted to add regarding, you know, just mental health and well-being?
Yeah, I mean, generally, I've felt okay, and I think it's because I've been busier than kind of what I normally ever have been. So I honestly, I haven't stopped. So I think, you know, when you don't, you know, I remember reading a book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. I don't know if you haven't read the book, make sure you do. But you know, one of the things he was saying in the book is, you know, the more you just keep doing stuff, the more difficult it is getting up, you know, going through tough patches in your life, because you just don't have the time. And I honestly haven't had a chance to really, you know, sit down and get upset. And then there have been, but in general, I've just been like, oh, okay, yeah, I got to do this, got to do that. And that's why I'm saying I'm kind of okay if it keeps going, because I'm like, man, I've got so much other stuff I need to get done. And like how Sami and Aseel were saying, like, you know, I just went to the Adelaide Fringe, finished a show. I've got a few film clips that I've got to do and stuff. But, you know, everything stops. And you know what? That's the way the cookie crumbles. You know, like there are so many other people that are more unfortunate than what I am. So I can't see, I feel like, okay, you know, it's just one of those things where, like, yes, you know, mental health is difficult, and I've seen it in my counseling practicing, but you know, the way I see it is, I shouldn't. I'm okay, because, you know, I've seen what some people are going through, and I guess that's kind of my motivation. But you know, when I talk to my students and stuff, and I'm seeing a lot of them are really finding it difficult that they're not able to spend time with their friends, and it's just a matter of kind of just being present and, you know, empathizing with people and just trying to be there as much as you can to whoever, and you know, and looking at, you know, the good stuff in wherever you can see it. And I guess that's kind of helping everyone I've experienced myself with.
Yeah, thank you. Now, Sami, on this topic, final word.
Like Ozge was saying, it's very much the same. You know, I went through that deep depression at the start of this, and one of the things that I find really interesting, maybe a part of it is also because I come from a part of the world where you don't talk about mental health. You know, it's just not a thing you talk about. It's, you know, when you say you're depressed, the advice you're given from family is get over it. Like, it's just that. So, you know, it's the realization that mental health is such a big part of our lives, and we're not taught about it. We're not equipped with it at all. It's almost the kind of thing where I feel like in school, my daughter should be taught now, you know, hey, there will be people around you who will have borderline personality disorder, you know, schizophrenia, you know, all of these things, bipolar disorder. You might have depression, you might have all of these things, and you need to learn to take care of yourself, and you need to help let others take care of you. And that's, you know, those are things that we aren't told. You know, I started going to a therapist online for the first time in my life. I think probably the best thing that the Victorian government did in this whole lockdown was agreeing to 10 extra free sessions or rebate sessions for therapy, because that was needed. You know, otherwise I know a lot of people, myself included, who couldn't have afforded those extra sessions. And my therapist gave me the same advice. Find those things in your life that you enjoy doing, and take time out and make sure you do them. And for me, they were, you know, I've had a very high high standard in terms of productivity for myself for a very long time. You know, if I'm not writing this many words a day, if I'm not doing this many comedy shows a week, you know, all of that, I feel like a failure. And it was the ability to sit down and go, it's okay. These are unprecedented times, and you don't have to produce content at the same level anymore, because it's a strange world. And you know, being okay with taking a day off, taking 2 days off in a row, and going, oh, you know what, instead I'll just go for a run today, and then I'll come back and I'll play I bought a PlayStation. I've never been a person who had a PlayStation and everything. And at the end of the day, when my daughter goes to sleep and I've made sure I've done 3 meals a day and I've done all my work commitments and I've done helped her with the homeschooling and she's in bed, I reward myself with, an hour of PlayStation. And it's an indulgence I can afford right now because I've got the time, but it just helps. So find the things that make you happy and take the time out to do them, because you don't know how much they're helping you.
I can tell you, I have. There is a craze now with Among Us. I don't know if you've been playing Among Us, but
Not yet. Ghost of Tsushima. If you get a chance to be a medieval samurai warrior fighting Mongols on a Japanese island, please take it, because nothing feels better on day 300 whatever of lockdown when you're like, I'm just going to go kill some people today.
Okay. Now, guys, we want to finish up on a high note, and I thought I'd first just say hello to Özge's daughters. What's your names?
Say it now. What's your name?
My name is Faiza and her name is Nina.
Faiza and Nina, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Hoş geldiniz. How are you? You good? Is mummy entertaining you?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to ask Mummy about Hijabi Girl. What was the inspiration for Hijabi Girl, and when can we see more of this coming out, and, how can we get a copy?
The inspiration for Hijabi Girl was when I was working at Ilim College. I was the head librarian, and I made it absolutely my mission to get as many books as I could with Muslim characters and by Muslim authors. This was about 7 years ago, and the publishing industry was nowhere near where it is right now. And what I really wanted, I found some picture books. I found some teenage books, thanks to Randa Abdul Fattah and amazing authors like that. What I couldn't find, I was looking for a chapter book. And I didn't want the Muslim character to be, a shy little flower, any of those things. Those also exist and they need to be in books, but I wanted to see kids who were like coming to my library every single day, books that represented them. And when I had the author Hazel Edwards visit us, I asked her, I'm like, can you write a book like this? And she's like, no, you're right, Ed. Bless her. And it's looking back at it, when you see the Own Voices movement, it actually makes a lot of sense that she asked me to write it. But we ended up co-authoring the book. And amazing Serena Geddes is responsible for a beautiful cover. And at this point, we actually got 39 rejections from major publishers for this book. My co-author, who has published over 200 books, absolutely could not believe what was happening. And what I see now, again, I see a lot of amazing books coming out with Muslim characters in it from America and the UK, but the Australian industry really seems to be sort of falling behind. What I'm seeing in the Australian industry is there's a lot of amazing independent books, people who are just self-publishing the books because for some reason we just can't seem to crack through. And we might be going that route. There's a small Muslim publishers interested in our books. So we're still in talks right now. So 2 and 3, we want to have that ready to go by the time of the puppet show, which will be, inshallah, God willing, if everything goes well, it's going to be mid-2021. So they'll be the next books. And this book, what is it?
We're looking forward to the puppet show as well.
Thank you. It's going to be amazing. If you go to the Larrikin puppets, you can actually see the puppets in action. And there's one page where Melek actually dives in and saves a kid. And her friend Tian, who's Vietnamese, whose name also means angel in their language, draws her as like a little hijabi fish, and they actually made little fish puppets of all the characters, and there's a little hijabi fish puppet character. It's got to be the only one of its kind. It is awesome. And the book is available, it's self-published, so you can get it through Hazel's website, or you can get it, I think if you want, you can get it through Amazon and Book Depository, all those places as well.
Well, thank you, Özge. I'll just ask Aseel, what projects are you cooking up in the next few weeks or months?
You know them all. We just had amazing chat, me and Kuranda. But I am there is some book happening. Unfortunately, I really tried so hard to keep the book kind of outcomes in the tent, but it doesn't look like it's gonna happen soon outdoors. I mean, like in an actual tent yet. So we're gonna have documentation mostly of that this project is kind of like to try and bring the lives of the artists and the inspiration behind their work and the work into kind of a live show instead of like a theater show. So that's kind of gonna happen in the next few months. And I'm working on like together with my sister and another friend of mine that we all like displaced on series of 3 books around the themes of Book J, the sack, the journey, and the home, the khebe, or whatever the home is. There is a project called Lullabies Under the Stars that I started last year together with a First Nation artist called Kalina Sansbury that is bringing lullabies. But as I said before, like we are all kind of in the space, we're trying to ease on mothers, but also on grandparents, and also kind of to connect. So in Arabic, tahlile is the lullaby, and like we're bringing kind of people together to sing lullabies and share their hug with others. So the idea of like the triangles of love, if whenever you try to hug someone, like actually Ozge is doing now, you create a shape of a triangle. I'm bringing all these triangles to create canopies that bring people together once we are allowed to. So it's there's lots of things happening, but it's just kind of, we will need some easing to be able to keep going and doing our work, and I don't know when that will happen. So slowly, I guess.
I hope it's soon. At least 2021. We want to open the gates. Now, Hesh, you tell us what we can expect from you in the next weeks or months.
Just trouble, pretty much. No, I'm just going to try and make as much music as I can, and started to use that green screen, so I'm going to make my own videos.
What's your latest song about?
It's a little bit of a funny song. It's called Mr. Friend Zone. So it's just about a guy who just has funny experiences with love, and so it's just got to get the film clip done with that. And then I've just done a Hibble video about making animal sounds. So that'll come out on YouTube very soon. So I
think Özge's children would appreciate that one.
I know. I think I should be getting them to have a look at it and tell me what they reckon. And
they can test it.
Yeah, she's wondering about your puppets already. So I think you're gonna have to check out your channel. She's already asking about the puppets.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be great. It would be good to chat to you about your book stuff as well at some point.
What is your channel, Hesh?
So it's Hibble Hesh. I'm just starting to kind of
Hibble Hesh
stuff on it now. So yeah,
okay. Now we're going to finish off with Sami. What are we expecting from you, Sami, soon?
Nothing in the immediate. Everything I'm working on has got kind of a long tail on it. I just finished writing an 8-episode audio production series, like a murder mystery story that I've been thinking about for a very long time for Amazon Audible. And so I'm now I have to direct it, but the direction obviously is affected by the fact that we're on lockdown. So hopefully I'll get to do that by the end of this year. And then, I've got a novel that I'm 3/4 of the way through. Hopefully, again, that I'll be able to finish that by the end of this year, and that might, come out next year. And then, stand-up comedy once the stages reopen and I can, be close to other human beings and make jokes and have them laugh back at them. That would be awesome.
I can see an emerging theme, a lot of killing happening with your PlayStation games and your murder mysteries.
Well, the murder mystery, honestly, it's one of those things where I spent 4 years in a country town in WA before moving to Melbourne, and I always used to wonder, is the worst case scenario, as a father, what happens when you move from a country where you think is unsafe to a country that you think is safe, and something happens here. So I had that idea in my head for years, and Amazon kind of was wonderful enough to kind of give me money to write it out.
That's very ironic. That's very ironic. I think it happens because, you might live in a war-torn country, but the people around you are very caring and know you well. But then you move to a place where everyone's a stranger, and things do happen. So yeah, that is ironic. Now, guys, I want to thank you so much. We are out of time, and you've been listening to Humans in Geelong, Art Under the COVID Skies, with our guests, with Sami Shah, Hisham Habibullah, Özge Alkan, and Aseel Tayah. And I love to finish with a lullaby from you, Aseel, if you could please indulge us, and we'll finish there. Thank you very much.
You should have prepared me.
This is perfect timing. My kids are gonna go to bed, so yes, let's go for it.
So I will sing for you a song that my mom used to sing for me. I couldn't find it anywhere, and it's in the praising of Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I love it so much, and you will know now why I have a good voice. My mom did, and like that's just kind of something that she fed me, breastfeeding me all the time. And it goes like this. If I praise the Prophet, it's so beautiful, but it's more beautiful than the honey and the bees and its honey. Like it's kind of just praising Subhanallah, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Okay.
وانا مدحت النبي مدح النبي محلى واحلى من الشهد واحلى من عسل نحلى وانا مدحت النبي مدح النبي مطلوب واحلى من الشهد واحلى من لقى المحبوب وانا مدحت النبي مدح النبي واجب واحلى من الشهد واحلى من لقى الحبايب.
Wow, Kulthum, move over. You've got an amazing voice.
Thank you.
My little one said uykum geldi, meaning I'm sleepy.
No, it
That
worked.
worked?
We need a recording of this to repeat for the next 4 hour nights.
Inshallah.
I want to thank you once again. Really wish you all the success with your art, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you and working with you as well, collaborating with you guys if there's an opportunity. And of course, I'd like to go back to Jackie if she's still there, and just to finish off the program.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. It was a wonderful, wonderful discussion. And we look forward to putting this up on Sunday, the 11th of October. And it's available on the Humans in Geelong YouTube channel. And it'll be there for anyone to watch ongoing.
Excellent.
Enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. See you guys. İyi akşamlar.